The summer air hung heavy with the scent of pine and earth, but for Cassie Renner, the forest had always smelled wrong, like it was alive and waiting. Even as a child, she had sensed the subtle movements of shadow between trees, the faint whispers of wind that weren't wind at all. Her father, a grizzled wilderness guide with hands calloused from decades of wood and stone, called it the thrill of the wild. To him, the forest was home. To Cassie, it was a trap. She tried to plead with him each summer, begging to stay home with a book or a friend, but he never listened. Until that year, when she turned 16, she made one last attempt. "Can I bring someone with me?" she asked, keeping her voice steady even as her heart drummed in protest. Her father's gray eyes narrowed. "A friend? I suppose, if it's someone you can trust." Cassie chose her neighbor, Liam Carver, a boy who seemed born for survival. Liam could start a fire in pouring rain, fashion a shelter from fallen branches, and track birds and deer with an ease Cassie could only envy. She figured if she had to endure the forest's unease, it would be less terrifying with him by her side. The adventure began with excitement, but quickly curdled into unease. A booking mishap at the ranger station sent them to a campground that was a strange hybrid of wilderness and amusement. The wilderness had paved paths, impeccably clean restrooms, and, most unsettling, an old carnival tucked into a grove of trees. Rusting roller coasters and Ferris wheels loomed behind the pines, their skeletal frames clawing at the sky. The scent of caramel corn and fried dough invaded the smell of pine, an insult to the senses. Cassie's father grumbled about the mistake, but she felt a surge of unease that had nothing to do with disappointment. Liam laughed it off, tossing a pebble at a nearby fountain, but Cassie couldn't shake the sensation that something was watching. That night, boredom and curiosity became temptation. Cassie and Liam waited until the campground fell silent, then slipped through the trees toward the carnival. Moonlight danced on chipped paint and rusted steel as they navigated the empty midway. The carousel's painted horses stared at them with frozen eyes, and the Ferris wheel groaned in the wind like a giant exhale. They climbed the highest coaster, hearts hammering, and when they reached the top, the forest stretched below them in inky black. The carnival lay quiet, a shadowed skeleton of lights that never turned on. Liam took out his phone and snapped a photo, and for a moment, the tension cracked into laughter. But as they descended, Cassie froze. There was movement near a shuttered snack stall, slow, deliberate, human, but wrong. A figure crouched in the shadows, barely breathing. When it stepped into a beam of moonlight, Cassie's stomach twisted. The man was grotesque. His clothes hung in rags, his skin pale, mottled with bruises, and one side of his face drooped as though something inside had broken. Dark streaks ran down his jaw and chin. Blood? Or something worse? He didn't move with human intention, but more like a puppet whose strings had frayed. Before they could react, he vanished into the carnival shadows. Cassie didn't sleep that night. Liam tried to joke, but the laughter sounded hollow. Outside, the wind carried whispers, almost indistinguishable from human voices. Morning brought sirens, far off, and a ranger's voice over a loudspeaker. Someone had been found dead at a small lake near the edge of the property. The description matched the figure they'd seen. Cassie and Liam said nothing. The next few days were tense, silent. They kept to the tent, avoiding the trees and the carnival alike. But Cassie couldn't forget the way the figure had watched them, the way its head had tilted, as though it knew what they had seen. The forest, she realized, had not forgotten them. Cassie could feel it watching even when she couldn't see it. Every shadow between the trees seemed heavier, darker, as though the forest itself had shifted overnight. She tried to shake it off, blaming adrenaline and fear, but the unease gnawed at her relentlessly. On the third evening, curiosity finally overpowered caution. Liam suggested they explore the carnival again. "We were careful last time," he said, trying to sound casual. "Just, let's see if it's empty." "It's just old rides, Cass." Cassie hesitated, but the pull of the unknown, that subtle whisper in her chest, was irresistible. They slipped out of their tent and back into the gloom, moving through the forest toward the carnival. Moonlight lit the rusted tracks of the roller coaster, casting long, twisted shadows on the ground. As they approached the Ferris wheel, Cassie noticed something new: footprints in the soft dirt between the paths. She crouched and examined them. Human? Perhaps, but the spacing was off. Too wide, too heavy, like the person who had made them wasn't quite human. A sudden metallic clang made them jump. The Ferris wheel moved slightly, groaning as though the wind had pressed it alive. But there was no wind. Liam's voice was tight. "Cass, maybe we should go back." Before she could respond, the figure appeared again, closer this time. Emerging from behind the bumper car pavilion, it moved like a shadow with jagged edges. Its face was partially hidden under a hood of dirty rags, but Cassie could see one eye glinting in the moonlight, wide, unnervingly intelligent, and entirely focused on them. They ran. The carnival transformed as they fled. Shadows stretched impossibly long. The carousel spun without wind. The air thickened, pressing in on their chests. Liam grabbed her arm, pulling her behind the concession stands. But no corner, no ride, no shadow offered real safety. Cassie's mind raced. Every horror movie cliché flashed through her head, but this was no film. This was real, visceral, and closer than their own racing hearts. She tripped over a root, fell hard, and felt her ankle twist sharply. Pain seared through her, but she forced herself up. The figure was almost upon them. Then it stopped. From the corner of her eye, she saw it vanish again, slipping between the stalls. She couldn't hear it breathe, couldn't see its legs move. It was like a specter that had learned the shape of terror itself. They collapsed behind a maintenance shed, panting, trembling. The sounds of the forest night suddenly loud. Owl calls, rustling leaves, the distant hiss of the Ferris wheel creaking in the moonlight. "We can't stay," Cassie whispered. "We have to get back to the tent. We have to tell my dad." Liam nodded, but his usual confidence was gone. Even he seemed aware that some instincts couldn't be argued with. They moved carefully, hugging the shadows, retracing their steps through the forest. Back at the tent, Cassie's father was waiting. His expression was unreadable. "You two look like hell," he said. "What happened out there?" Cassie opened her mouth, then shut it. How could she explain a man who defied reason, who vanished like smoke? Words failed her. Instead, she simply shook her head. "Nothing. Just the woods," she lied. He frowned, but didn't press. Perhaps he sensed the truth, but understood that some things couldn't be spoken aloud. That night, sleep eluded her again. Shadows crawled along the tent walls, whispering promises and threats she couldn't name. Her dreams twisted into landscapes she recognized. The Ferris wheel, the roller coaster, the snack stand, but wrong. The rides were alive, groaning, whispering, and the figure was always there, always just out of reach. When dawn came, they packed in silence. The campground felt empty, abandoned, as though it had been waiting for them to leave. Cassie glanced back at the carnival one last time. The Ferris wheel's outline shimmered in the morning haze, and she knew, without doubt, that it had not forgotten them. Cassie's life moved forward, but the memory refused to fade. Years later, even in a busy city apartment, she would dream of that night. She could feel the pull of the forest, hear the faint, mocking laughter of a man, or something else, watching from behind Ferris wheels and snack stalls. And she knew one thing with cold certainty: some shadows don't disappear. They wait. The forest had a way of drawing her back, even years later. Cassie never returned to that campground, but the memory never left. Then, one summer, she returned to the mountains for a family reunion, not to the same campground, but nearby. The air smelled of pine and moss, deceptively peaceful. She tried to laugh at herself for ever believing in shadows, for fearing what might be only coincidence. But the forest remembered. One evening, she wandered alone along a ridge trail, the sun low in the sky, streaking the trees with gold. The wind shifted, carrying a strange, metallic scent, like iron and rot. And then she saw it, a figure standing at the edge of the tree line, staring at her. It was not a man, not entirely. Its posture was unnatural, limbs too long, head cocked at an impossible angle. Its clothes were tatters, stained with dark streaks, the same pale skin that she remembered. Cassie froze. Her heart threatened to explode. "Who are you?" she whispered, though she knew the question was meaningless. The figure didn't move closer. It just watched. And then, in a movement that was more felt than seen, it vanished into the trees. Cassie's feet carried her back to the lodge without thought. She told no one. Words could not contain this presence. That night, in her room, sleep came, but the dreams were worse than ever. The carnival reappeared in her mind, but now it was alive, pulsating with shadowed shapes. The Ferris wheel turned endlessly, grinding metal shrieking against metal. From behind the stalls, the figure emerged, and this time, it spoke, not in words, but in a sound that seemed to crawl under her skin. A whisper, ancient and knowing. You saw? You remembered. You cannot forget. She woke drenched in sweat, shaking. For the first time in years, she understood. It was not hunting her because of anything she had done. It existed in that space between the ordinary and the impossible. She had glimpsed it, and now she carried the mark of its attention. The next morning, Cassie packed quickly and left the mountains. But the forest did not release her. In mirrors, in shadows, in fleeting glimpses from car windows, she sometimes saw a shape just beyond comprehension. A twisted form that paused, watching, always waiting. Somewhere, the carnival waits too. Not in reality, perhaps, but in the spaces where fear is alive and memory is sharp. The rides still turn in dreams, the stalls still groan, and the shadow between them still waits. Cassie learned to live with it, but she never truly escaped. Sometimes, when the wind shifts just right, she hears the faint grinding of metal and the whisper of a voice she cannot name. And she knows, the shadow will always be there, between the rides, just beyond sight, waiting for the next moment of curiosity to call it into being again. Because some things are not bound by time, place, or reason. Some things are simply eternal, and some shadows never leave. It was October, and the city had a chill that sank through the bones. Leaves spiraled down narrow alleyways, piling against rusted fences and graffiti-splashed walls. Teenagers whispered about costumed figures haunting the subways, corners, and parks. Most dismissed them as urban legends, viral stunts meant to frighten, but whispers can be the first warning. Evan Mitchell, 16, was too tired and careless to heed warnings. He had stayed late at the music studio downtown, headphones clamped over his ears, letting the bass drown the world outside. By the time he stepped into the station, the sun had set hours ago, leaving the city in a cold, fluorescent haze. The subway platform was nearly empty. A few stragglers checked their phones. The train screeched to a stop, and Evan rose automatically, backpack slung over one shoulder. Then he noticed the figure. A man stood near the doorway, crimson mask covering his face, stitched with jagged black lines that mimicked a twisted grin. His coat was oversized, hanging like a shadow that wasn't quite human. He didn't move. He didn't blink. Evan froze. The man stepped closer. Evan's instincts screamed at him, but the crowd was sparse. He tried to push past. The man mirrored him, moving with impossible precision, like a predator learning the rhythm of its prey. The train doors began to close. Panic surged. Evan ducked, slipped under the man's arm, and ran. A knife caught the light as he glanced back. A long, crude blade. The man lunged, jerking unnaturally, as if his body hadn't yet agreed on how to run. Each movement was wrong, stilted, almost mechanical, but terrifyingly fast. Evan's sneakers slapped against tile as he bolted up the stairs. The station was empty, echoing each heartbeat, each breath. Above ground, he burst into the cold night air, gasping, shaking. The figure didn't follow. Evan spent the next few days in a state of paranoia. Every shadow seemed to twitch. Every reflection in shop windows held the faint outline of a crimson grin. The city itself felt changed, as though some thread of normality had frayed the moment the man appeared. He tried telling friends. They laughed nervously. "Come on, Evan. A clown with a knife? You just had a bad trip." But Evan knew the truth. He had felt the wrongness of it. The way the man had moved, how the blade glinted even when there was no light to catch it. It had been precise, deliberate, and unnatural. At night, he slept with the lights on, every creak and gust of wind a potential threat. Days later, Evan took a later train home, trying to reclaim a sense of normalcy. The station was quiet, nearly deserted. He told himself it was safe. Then he saw a figure at the far end of the platform, not far enough to ignore. Crimson mask, oversized coat, knife glinting faintly under the flickering lights. Evan froze, heart pounding. This was no coincidence. The train arrived, doors sliding open. He hesitated. The figure stepped closer, and for a fraction of a second, their eyes met. Or rather, the mask's stitched grin seemed to pierce him directly. A cold, Methodical intelligence radiated from the shadow beneath the mask. Instinct surged. Evan dove into the car just as the doors began to close. The figure lunged. Evan felt the wind of movement, a blur behind him, but the doors shut, cutting off the threat. He collapsed into a seat, shaking uncontrollably. The city seemed to forget. No news story covered a man in a crimson mask stalking a subway. No police report. No warning. But Evan never forgot. For weeks, he would see flashes in reflective glass, fleeting glimpses in alleyways. The faint echo of uneven footsteps on tile would wake him in the middle of the night. And sometimes, just as he was about to drift into sleep, he would hear a whisper that was not quite a whisper. Soon. The man in the crimson mask was not gone. He was patient, precise, waiting for the moment Evan's defenses slipped, ready to reappear. Because some predators don't need to chase. They only need to wait. The days after the subway encounter were a blur for Evan. Every time he left his apartment, the city felt different, as if he were seeing it through a lens that others didn't. Shadows stretched too long. Alleyways looked deeper than they should. And everywhere, in the corner of his vision, he could feel that impossible presence, the patience of the crimson mask watching, waiting. He tried to convince himself it was paranoia. But one night, walking home from a late shift at the library, he passed the old train yard. The gates were chained, graffiti covered, but the shadows beyond seemed alive. And then, he saw movement. The figure stepped out from behind a rusted locomotive, knife glinting faintly under a broken floodlight. Crimson mask, oversized coat, stilted, unnatural movements. Evan froze. "You shouldn't be here." A voice rasped, not loud, not angry, but deliberate. A sound that crawled under his skin. Evan ran. Every instinct screamed, but now he understood. The city itself could not protect him. Even the crowded streets felt thin, hollow, as though the predator could reach him anywhere. He made it home, slammed the door, and locked it. Windows were bolted. Lights stayed on, but sleep did not come. The next day, he returned to the library under the pretense of research. He scoured newspapers, police reports, and online forums. At first, nothing. No mention of attacks. No missing persons linked to the subway. Nothing about costumed figures. Then, buried in a forum thread about urban legends, he found it. Accounts of a clown appearing on subways, in alleyways, in abandoned stations. Not recent, not centuries old, but scattered over decades, appearing only in certain neighborhoods, always with a knife, always disappearing without a trace. The stories shared a terrifying pattern. Witnesses described unnatural movements. Victims were never found immediately. The figure could vanish at will, appearing again years later as if no time had passed. Evan's stomach churned. This wasn't a random attack. It was deliberate, patient, precise. That night, Evan decided to test it. He returned to the subway platform where it had first appeared. The station was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights flickered, and a cold wind drifted through the tunnels. He waited, heart hammering. Minutes passed. Then he saw it. Crimson mask, knife glinting, standing perfectly still at the far end of the platform. Evan's mind raced. He thought, why me? Why now? The figure began to move, slow, deliberate steps. Evan's legs locked with fear. He wanted to run, to scream, but the man in the mask was faster. By the time the train arrived, he was inches away. The doors opened, and Evan dove inside. The figure lunged, but as before, the doors shut, separating them. Evan's breath came in ragged gasps. But the mask was still there, reflected in the train's windows, watching him even as it vanished into shadow. Evan couldn't ignore it anymore. He began documenting everything. Times, locations, even his dreams. The figure was appearing more often, following him across stations, alleys, and empty streets. Its presence had a weight, a slow inevitability. One night, Evan stayed in the apartment, pretending to sleep. Around 2 a.m., he felt it, movement outside his window. Crimson mask, knife catching the moonlight, stilted steps moving around the building. He realized the truth. It didn't just stalk subways. It stalked him. And the city, vast as it was, offered no safety. The climax loomed as Evan planned one last confrontation. He would take the train at night, ride to the end of the line, and force the figure to reveal itself. His reasoning was desperate. Either he would understand what it wanted, or it would take him. He stepped onto the platform, a cold wind cutting through his coat. Fluorescent lights flickered, and there it was. Crimson Mask, knife glinting, its body tilted at an impossible angle, waiting. The train arrived. Evan got in, clutching a metal baton he had brought for protection. The door slid shut, and then the figure appeared on the car roof, standing impossibly, knife raised. Evan screamed. The train rocked violently. Passengers inside scattered, but he kept his eyes locked on it. The mask seemed to leer, not human, not bound by reason. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. No crash, no trace, only a faint echo of footsteps fading into the night. Evan slumped in the seat, trembling. The city had not stopped the predator. He had survived by luck, by instinct, by impossibly thin margins. But the truth remained, it was patient. And patient killers wait for perfection, for opportunity. The man in the crimson mask was not gone. He was only waiting. The city never felt safe again. Even after the train roof incident, Evan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being followed. Every time he stepped outside, every time he descended into a subway station, the air seemed heavier, charged with unseen intent. Friends began to notice his exhaustion, his jittery eyes, the way he flinched at shadows. But when he tried to tell them, words failed. Who would believe him? Weeks passed. Evan avoided the subway, taking long walks above ground, avoiding dark alleys. But avoidance was futile. One rainy evening, Evan walked across the empty streets toward his apartment. Streetlights flickered overhead. Rain-slicked pavement reflected distorted shapes. And then he saw it. Crimson Mask, knife in hand, standing across the street under a broken street lamp. Its coat clung to its impossible angles as it tilted its head slowly, watching. Evan froze. The mask's grin seemed wider than before, stitched and cruel. It was waiting, calculating, patient. This time, Evan knew he couldn't run. The predator had him figured out. Its patience had led to this moment. He gripped the metal baton tighter, shaking, heart racing. The figure moved with that same stilted, unnatural gait. Every step echoed like thunder in the empty street. Evan's instincts screamed, fight, flee, survive. But he realized something worse. He couldn't outrun it. He couldn't outsmart it. It had studied him, learned him, understood him in ways that defied reason. He raised the baton as it lunged. But the motion was wrong. The figure didn't attack in a normal human rhythm. It didn't follow physics. Its movements warped, jerking unnaturally as it approached, almost unreal. Evan swung, hitting air. The figure vanished in a flash of shadow, reappearing inches away. Evan's vision blurred with panic. He stumbled backward, heart hammering, rain blurring his sight. And then, a strange sensation. The street was silent. Too silent. No rain, no city noise, no footsteps. Just the mask. Standing, waiting. Time felt wrong. Evan felt the world stretch and fold around him. The figure tilted its head, and for a moment, Evan understood. It was not human, not bound by ordinary rules. It was a predator that existed in the cracks between normality, feeding on fear, patience, and attention. Evan made a choice. He dropped the baton. His body trembling, he stared directly into the mask's stitched grin. He didn't flinch. He didn't scream. He didn't move. The figure paused. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, impossibly, it stepped back, tilting its head as if considering him. And then, it vanished. Evan didn't breathe for a long time. Rain soaked him through. The city slowly returned to normal sounds. The distant honk of cars, the drip of water from fire escapes, footsteps of a lone passerby. But Evan knew the truth. It had not gone. It had only waited, satisfied for now. He never returned to the subways at night. He avoided alleys. He slept with lights on, windows open, heart always ready for the impossible. But sometimes, in the corner of his vision, in reflections, in the flicker of lights, he sees it. Crimson Mask, knife in hand, waiting, patient, eternal. Because some predators do not need to chase. They only need to exist. And patience is far deadlier than speed. Evan learned to live with fear. And fear, he realized, is a price he will pay forever. The job listing was strange from the start. Night security at Silvercrest Inn. High pay. No Spanish speakers. Lena Torres, 21, ignored the odd requirement. She needed money. College tuition, Rent, groceries, everything added up. Rules were meant to be bent, she told herself. She applied, lied through the interview, and got the job. The Silver Crescent looked ordinary from the outside. Neon lights flickered across the sign, pools of orange-yellow light pooling on the wet pavement. The lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and stale coffee. The manager, a thin man with sharp, dark eyes and a smile that didn't reach them, handed her a set of keys and a clipboard. "Night duties are simple," he said. "Patrol the halls, monitor guests, and report unusual behavior. Anyone with a blue wristband goes into the pool house. Do not enter the pool house yourself. Any questions?" Lena shook her head. "Good," he said. "And remember, discretion is part of the job." She nodded, pretending to understand, though the unease had already begun. The first week was uneventful. She patrolled floors 3 through 6, checked doors, logged minor incidents, noise complaints, a broken lamp, a drunk guest. But the pool house never opened. No one ever seemed to leave or enter it, except for men wearing blue wristbands. They came, stayed, paid her a small fee, and left heavier, carrying backpacks that looked suspiciously overweight. She tried to rationalize it. Maybe deliveries, maybe staff-only events. But each interaction grew stranger. The men sometimes whispered in languages she didn't understand, laughed in odd rhythms, and left bills tucked under her clipboard. The tipping made her uneasy, but she kept quiet. Money was money, she told herself. Then, one night, a child fell into the pool. Lena, trained in lifeguard duties from high school, jumped in without hesitation. The child coughed, sputtered, and clung to her. She pulled the kid out as applause erupted from the balcony. Hotel guests cheered. People clapped. But Lena felt an icy prickle at the base of her skull. Something wasn't right. Later, in the staff room, the manager raised a glass of champagne, smiling at her like she had passed some invisible test. "You did well tonight," he said. "It's important to know the value of precision. Some people perform, some people serve, and some are only useful once." Lena laughed nervously, unsure what he meant. That night, as she counted the tips and slipped the bills into her purse, she noticed something chilling. The numbers written on the envelopes didn't match the fees collected. They were higher, much higher. Weeks passed, and her anxiety grew. She noticed patterns. People with blue wristbands always disappeared into the pool house. Out of the hundreds who paid her, only a few came back the next day, and the ones who did were changed. Eyes dull, voices flat, movements almost robotic. Then came the night she realized the truth. A group arrived. For men, blue wristbands, oversized backpacks. They smiled at her, tipped generously, and entered the pool house. Later, she heard laughter, then screams, then silence. Her heart pounded. She went to check, but the pool house was locked, fortified, impossible to open from the outside. The manager appeared behind her, face expressionless. "You should never go in there," he said softly. "It's not for you. Some jobs pay in money. Others pay in silence. And silence can cost you everything." The warning wasn't metaphorical. Lena understood immediately. The pool house was a machine, a trap, a factory that turned people into something else. And she had been a part of it, unknowingly, from the moment she took the job. That night, she made a choice. She collected her things, stuffed her purse with cash, and left quietly. The hotel seemed darker than ever, the neon sign flickering like a heartbeat, pulsing with a rhythm of hidden violence. She never returned. But the nightmares came, every night. Blue wristbands, heavy backpacks, empty eyes staring through her dreams, whispering in the languages she shouldn't understand but somehow did. Some jobs pay well, some pay in life, and the Silver Crescent paid in silence. Lena couldn't sleep. Every night, the image of the pool house haunted her, the way its doors stood solid, unyielding, and forbidden. She began noticing things in the hotel she had ignored before. The quiet nods between the staff, the way some guests avoided eye contact, the faint metallic smell lingering near the pool late at night. Curiosity gnawed at her, stronger than fear. She needed to understand. One evening, she stayed past her shift. The lobby emptied, the echoes of the last guests fading into the night. She approached the pool house cautiously, keys jingling in her hand. The door was locked, but she noticed a small panel on the side. It looked like it hadn't been touched in years. With a trembling hand, she pressed it. Nothing happened. Her heartbeat quickened. She stepped back, listening. Somewhere above, water splashed faintly. A child's laughter, or something like it, echoed. Not human. Lena shivered and tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a guest, maybe someone swimming late. But the unease had already taken root in her chest, growing. The next night, she decided to observe from the second-floor balcony. The pool was empty, but men with blue wristbands arrived, moving in pairs or small groups. They approached her station, paid, and disappeared into the pool house. She counted them. Every night, the same pattern: arrival, tip, disappearance. And every night, she noticed the subtle changes. Some emerged the next day, but they were hollow. Their movements were stiff, their expressions blank. Once, one of them glanced at her with eyes so empty it felt like looking into a void. Her stomach turned. Lena realized the truth. The hotel was not a business. The pool house wasn't a facility. She herself had been unknowingly complicit, a gatekeeper in a system that preyed on people, transforming them. Her investigation became reckless. She spoke to former employees she could find online. They spoke in whispers, warning her to leave, to never look behind the pool house doors. One man, pale and shaking, said, "They call it the cleansing. People come here, and they never leave the same. Some disappear. Some return, but they're not themselves. You don't want to know." The words were a confirmation, a terror that settled deep in her bones. That night, she decided to leave. The next morning, she would quit, pack her things, disappear from Silvercrest and forever. But the hotel had other plans. The manager appeared outside her apartment door that night. No knock, no warning. Just a shadow in the doorway, sharp eyes gleaming in the dim light. "You've seen too much," he said softly, voice calm, controlled. "And yet, you've also served your purpose. Some jobs require discretion. You have earned a reward." He handed her an envelope, thick with bills. The weight of it made her stomach turn. What is this?" she stammered. He smiled, thin-lipped and predatory. "A choice. Take it and leave. Or refuse and become part of the process." Her hands shook. She knew the truth. Money was safe. Curiosity was deadly. And refusal was not an option. Lena left that night, slipping through the back streets, backpack tight, money clutched like a talisman. She never looked back, but the pool house never left her. In dreams, she sees the blue wristbands, the hollow eyes, the laughter that isn't human. Sometimes she imagines herself walking back through the sliding doors, realizing too late that the silver and blue tiles hide a machine that can strip a person of everything, leaving only silence. Some jobs pay in money, some pay in life, and some pay in silence. Lena thought leaving the Silvercrest and would be the end. She thought the envelope of cash was her ticket to safety. But that night, she realized some things do not let go. She had barely settled into a cheap motel across town when a call came through. No caller ID, no voice at first, just static, then a whisper, soft, deliberate, impossible to ignore. "You know too much." Her blood ran cold. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement. Knowledge alone was dangerous. The pool house, the wristbands, the hollowed men. Everything she had seen was part of a system that did not forgive curiosity. She hung up and bolted from the room. The streets outside were empty, slick with rain, reflecting neon signs and fractured puddles. Every shadow seemed alive, every alleyway a potential trap. Then she saw him, not in person, but a figure, a man in a blue staff uniform, too tall, too still, walking past the hotel she had left behind. His eyes, she couldn't see them, but she felt them. Watching, waiting. She ran. For weeks, Lena moved from city to city, changing hotels, jobs, even her appearance. But the memory of the pool house never left her. Every night, her dreams were haunted by the blue wristbands, the heavy backpacks, and the faces of people she had once watched disappear or return hollowed. Sometimes she dreamed of herself, walking into the building willingly, doors sliding shut behind her, the metallic click final and inescapable. One night, she could no longer ignore the inevitable. She knew the truth. The Silvercrest Inn wasn't just a hotel. It was a machine, a factory of silence. And she had been a part of it, whether she liked it or not. Some jobs pay in money. Some jobs pay in blood. Some jobs pay in silence. She realized she had taken the cash and escaped, but the payment was not over. Every glance over her shoulder, every shadow at the edge of her vision, Every unexplained noise at night was a reminder. The pool house is patient. The system never sleeps. And one day, it may call for her again. The final lesson came in the quietest way possible. A simple tap at the window of her apartment. A faint whisper carried on the wind. "Your time is coming." Lena never ignored the whisper. She never sleeps with her back to a door. And she never forgets. Because some silences are louder than screams. And the cost of knowing can last a lifetime.